Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have a very, very, very special guest. One of my favorite, maybe my favorite basketball player ever in the history of Oklahoma State basketball. And that's saying a lot, but I will say this. Hey, that can be an opinion, right? There is no opinion whatsoever. The best three-point shooter ever in the history of Oklahoma State University. If anybody wants to disagree with me on that, you're absolutely wrong. Randy Rutherford joins OState Daily. Randy, how the heck are you, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
Doing very good. Thank you so much for joining, man.
I appreciate you guys inviting me on.
Let's start with the Final Four run in 1995. Check out these names. Of course, you remember Marcus Camby of UMass and Lou Rowe on that team for UMass in the Elite Eight. You had Randolph Childress and Tim Duncan of Wake Forest in the round before that. The round before that, you had Antonio McDyess and Jason Caffey. Wow, what a run there in 95. Tell us what you remember about it.
Hey, it was a very big challenge for us, but we knew it was a really good team. We just knew we had to play our style of basketball. And so you named out some guys. That's 6-7 NBA guys. They were big-time athletes. So the challenge was there, but we was up for the challenge, and we felt really comfortable that we could beat all those teams.
What was the vibe like for you for Oklahoma State basketball during that time when you were getting recruited?
Well, for me, it was pretty easy because I had been coming to Oklahoma State in the summertime to team camps. And me and Fred had played AAU together for the Rams. So we already knew each other since, our sophomore year in high school, ninth grade year in high school. So when I decided to commit, he committed, I think, a day or two after me or before me. I committed my junior year. I think he did too. And Coach Seth played a major part in me coming to Oklahoma State for sure.
So coming in with Fred Burley, I've always connected you two together. Have you always felt the connection with him? Like you two are linked together at Oklahoma State forever because you came in together?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, me and Fred have been friends since, we were in high school. We played AAU together. We lived together in the summer times with Johnny for the Rams in Oklahoma City, a little bit over to the Trotters. So, I ain't talked to Fred in a while, but every now and then we'll catch bases, and it's just like old times when we catch up.
Yeah, you guys had a bunch of kids from Oklahoma, you and Fred and Big Country and all those guys. I mean, so it had to be really cool to have all those guys from Oklahoma.
That's what it was about back then. Coach Seth and them was doing a great job getting the best players in Oklahoma. You got, Keontae Roberts came in. You had Joe Atkins. You had Earl Jones. You had Cornell Hatcher. You just go down the list of guys. Then they hit that Texas with Pierce, and you hit all those guys. Then you bring in my best friend, Brooks Thompson. So, it was a level of – back then it was such a family atmosphere that we all connected from Jump Street.
Yeah. You mentioned Brooks Thompson. Talk about him, the late great. How much has he missed?
Oh, every day, man. I still got his voicemail, the last voicemail I got from him on my phone. We connected from day one. Coach Seth put us together, and we was, friends ever since. And
then Big Country, he obviously became one of the most recognized basketball players, not just of that generation, ever. Seriously, that's how recognizable he was. So what was it like getting to play with him?
Well, Big C is just always Big C. He's Big Country for a reason. He had no ego. He just loved to, fish, chew tobacco, and play basketball. Yeah. And so we all hung out together, and I just seen him last weekend, 2 weekends ago, and it's always the same thing. Nothing but love. When we see each other, we just laugh, we text. So it's good to know someone that has that aura of Big Country, and you was a part of him becoming Big Country, So that's that was a great opportunity for us to play with him and for him to play with us, and we've been lifelong friends ever since.
Obviously, you guys had great talent, but there's been a lot of teams at Oklahoma State that's had great talent that didn't have the success you guys did. What was the sauce for you guys that led you to so much success, you think?
I think the biggest deal, I think my junior year, that was our most talented team, I think, that OSU had, because our starter was myself, you had Brooks, you had Country, you had Fred Burley, and you had Milt Brown, and then you had the guys like Pierce and Manzer and Scott Sutton, just a collective group of guys that we stayed together all summer. We lived together in the summertime, and we just had that chemistry. And then my senior year, it was just one of those things where everybody understood their role and everybody bought in and everybody was a superstar in their role. And so from that point on, it was just whoever we played, we felt we could win.
Yeah. So you're living in Tulsa now, right?
Wasso.
Wasso, yeah. Yeah, losing a little bit of that Broken Bow accent, aren't you?
Oh, no, it's still the same. I'm just talking to you right now.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Hey, that senior year of yours, 1994-95, the year we made the Final Four, Andre Owens comes in as the point guard that year, and it wasn't like a perfect transition. We go on the road and lose a tough game to Michigan State. We're 10-5, and it's like, wow, this is not quite as good as we thought it would be at that time. But really, that Michigan State team, they were a really good team, obviously, but that really felt like a turning point of that season.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing was, the hardest position to play in basketball is guard position. And if you're playing for Coach Sutton, it is the hardest position at all. And it's a point guard, him coming in, having to identify how he needed to play from coming from junior college at a high level at Division I, and totally different style than how Brooks was running the point for us. It was a transitional period. It usually takes about, 10 to 15 games. Either you're going to get it or you're not going to get it. And I think he was my suite mate at the time. We could watch a lot of film together. We can talk about how this is how you need to play. You need to dominate every point guard that we play. And I think he just really embraced that. And after that, once he decided to take the coaching from Coach and watch film and become a student of the game, man, it was easy selling after that.
Yeah, Alonzo Mays, who played basketball later for Oklahoma State and obviously was an All-American tight end, he would always tell his quarterbacks, hey, I'm open. Just throw me the dang ball, right? Randy Rutherford, no matter where he was out on the court, he was open, right?
Hey, well, that's the way I thought about it. Coach Sutton may had other thoughts, but after a while, I think he kind of started to believe that I was open when I said I was open. So it's one of those things. You got to earn that.
Yeah. So who is the best player that you guys faced in that Final Four run? We talked about Antonio McDyess, Tim Duncan, Randolph Childress, who was a guard that you probably had to go against there, and all those guys. Who was the best one you saw?
Well, I think the best player that we faced was McDyess in the tournament. Only saying that, we all knew that I knew Tim Duncan was going to be a better pro than a college player anyway because of the way the game was. Yeah. I think he had like 20 and 20 against us, but it wasn't just so dominant because he had to guard Big C. But McDyess could move country out on the perimeter, shoot jump shots, athletic as all get out. So that was a bigger challenge, I thought, going in. But once, we had our pieces fell into place and it all worked out the way it should have.
Were you on the court when Big Country hit the half-court shot against Missouri to send it to overtime?
Yes, we were playing. We were literally – Coach had called up a play, and I could tell people the same story. He's supposed to tip it to me and Brooks, but he fumbled the ball.
Yeah.
And so, it was an amazing shot. After he hit that shot, it was over after that. I think we ended up winning by like 11, 12 points in overtime.
I talked to Matt Clark a couple days ago, and he was on the court, not on the court, but he was on the bench. He'd actually fouled out when Eddie Half-Court Hannon hit his half-court shot. Have you ever gone back and seen that half-court shot by him?
I've seen it. Yes, we've seen it. People talk about a lot of great shots in Gallagher, and that's one too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was right behind it in the end zone there, and one thing I keep remembering about it was like everybody was partying like we won the game, and I kept thinking, no, I just tied the game. We still had an entire overtime to play, did we?
Well, it was just a funny thing because a lot of the fans had already left the building.
Yes.
Because, it was literally, you could just see them moving out and, Coach grew up to play because, I don't know, we made a couple of mistakes, I'm sure, bonehead plays earlier. And he drew up to play. It's called Cowboy. We're going to hit Country in the middle and throw it to Brooks or Randy either side. Whoever's open, and you got to heave up for three. But Country wanted to do it his own way. He wanted that lower to go on. So he fumbled it, shot it. And to this day, he said, I told y'all it was in. You see my hands went straight up. I was like, yeah, you can say that now because it went in.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, did you ever play video games in college?
Yeah, we did, but I was a baseball junkie. I loved baseball, so we always played RBI.
Yeah,
and then we would play that. I forget that one game, like Street Fighter or something like that. I was never really was a big video game guy. I would like to play pool or dominoes or ping pong or something. Yeah.
So who was your go-to team on RBI baseball?
I used to go with the Mets, man.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I ask you that because I actually roomed with a guy in a trailer that you were friends with, still are friends with, Jason Turk, that played on that team. And I'll never forget it. We were playing at whatever the NCAA basketball game was, and it was right when they first started coming out with college players rosters on this video game, and we were literally like playing him on the video game, and it was the weirdest thing. Did you ever get that experience in the early 90s?
Yeah, I played a little bit. Coach K, I think the one we used to play, Coach K, and you could put your cell phone, and of course you're going to shoot the ball every time.
Yeah, and it went in, right?
Right, So, it was like the old video game when the guy would shoot. He's like, he's getting hot. He's heating up. It was the same thing like that, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it, you have this personality that's very happy-go-lucky. You're always in a good mood. You're always smiling. Do you think that helped you on the basketball court? How did that help you in competition?
Well, I don't think I smiled as much on the basketball court for what they say because I go with what Coach said, you go to game mode. Yeah. But I think just being a happy person, everyday life is hard enough. If you're not happy and enjoying life, where you are, where you've been, be blessed to be where you are. I mean, it's tough without being that way. So I tried to move that way as I got older in life and not take myself so seriously.
So you have this reputation of Coach Sutton. Of course, he gets to Oklahoma State, and immediately they make the Sweet 16. I still am pissed at Mark Macon for hitting that shot against OSU, Sean Sutton's teams. But you have this reputation of Coach Sutton, and then you get here. Did it all match together?
Pretty much, because when he got the job, I was in high school. So he came to Broken Bow, like the day he got to Stillwater, they flew into Broken Bow, and he came to my house and my mom, and we drove him around Little Broken Bow, the park where I played at, to the gym. And he said, hey, when you come here, it's going to be a little different, but if you do what I asked you to do, you got a chance to be a great player at Oklahoma State. And of course, you don't believe everything everybody says, because he was harder than what you've ever been through. But overall, what he said happened. So I was very blessed with the opportunity to play for a legend like him, because I knew he loved big guards and guards that could guard. So, I mean, he'd fit up my alley. So I was excited about that.
So the year at Bacone, was that just kind of, hey, let's just take this year so we can get to OSU, or how'd that work for you?
Well, it was one of those things where I was in track, because I was All-American in track. And so we had to take the ACT, and we was in a state tournament. So I said, I'm not going to take the ACT because they'll let me in with my GPA. And they said they wouldn't let me in because I had a 17 on the ACT and a 3.2. So they said you had to have an 18. So Coach Self was like, well, just go to Bacone, play for Carl Scott, who knows Coach Sutton from Arkansas State. So I went there for a year, played there for a year, graduated early so I could get 3 years, took summer school both summers, and boom, there it was.
Did you grow up an OSU fan?
I grew up a Oklahoma State fan over Oklahoma Sooners, and I grew up a Washington Redskins fan over the Dallas Cowboys. So, yes, I've been an OState fan way before. I had never been an OU fan.
John Riggins? You a fan of John Riggins?
Oh, yes. The Hogs, Big John Riggins. Oh, yeah. Doug, Art Monk, all those guys. That's Clayton, Green. Yeah, that's my group. That's when that was big for us to be good in Washington, and Dallas was good too. So all my friends in Broken Bow, they're either OU fans or Dallas fans. Yeah. I made a lot of them Oklahoma State fans when I went there, but they converted back to OU since I'm not, you know what I mean? So, I always been an OSU fan.
I remember that 80s generation of Washington teams. They had a guy named Ricky Sanders that returned punts, and he was a secondary guy. And then he was so good, and then when we got Barry Sanders, I was like, oh, cool, we got a guy with the last name of Sanders, just like the guy at Washington. Come to find out, Barry Sanders a little bit better. Right?
He's just a little bit better.
Okay, so give us a good anecdote of what it's like for a guy like Randy Rutherford, who's a star on the team, to play for a guy like Coach Sutton that doesn't care that you're a star on the team. He's going to treat you like everybody else, right?
The greatest thing about playing for Coach Sutton is what we call being comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right? It's the thing that I use to this day. I go with fear and respect go hand in hand. He always had that aura about him. No matter how good you were or how good you're playing, he could always let you know that you're only as good as your teammates allow you to be and how we allow you to be. So he would always, if he called you into the office, you're terrified. You're terrified.
You're going to the principal's office, huh?
Hey, if Mary Lee says Coach wants you at the office at 2:00, your mind goes to what have I been doing wrong? But it just could be hey, your teacher sent a letter, said you making good grades, or hey, how's your family? It was always that fear and respect thing, which I think that creates men, because you want to be accountable every day on the court and off the court.
Yeah. What do you remember about the UCLA game in the Final Four? That whole experience of the whole week leading up, knowing you're in the Final Four, getting treated like you're in the Final Four, and then taking the court in the Final Four.
I'll be honest, it's kind of a blur, really. Because our whole intention was we really thought we were going to win it. Our agenda was to win. Yeah. And coach is all about preparation. If you're prepared in preparation, you don't have to be nervous. And so we were ready to go beat them because we thought we matched up really well with them. And we didn't play our best basketball the first half. So we figured the second half we were going to be able to wear on them, and we're going to be able to do what we usually do. And they just, they had some good players and good team as well. And sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. But we really felt in our hearts of hearts that we were the better team and we could win and get all the way and win the whole thing.
279 made three-point shots. You had a three-point shot percentage of 42%. Hey, it's hard to do that in the game of horse. Nonetheless, against competition in the Big Eight at that time. What made you such a great shooter?
Well, the one thing that I've always believed in is repetition and consistency, but just going into the gym, and me and Brooks and Manzer and them, we would go in the gym on hours and hours and just shoot game active shots, not just in there just shooting around. You ask the kid, I was at the gym for 3 hours. How many shots did you make? A bunch? I don't even know what that is. What's a bunch? Everything was, when you get to college, their percentages after practice, what you shot in practice is over on the wall. And coaches rule were, if you can't make 2-pointers at 50%, you can't make threes at 37%, you don't be shooting them in the game. Yeah. And so we always had that idea. We had to become better at what we was doing and worked at it and knew that it was no free lunches, as Coach Sutton would say.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just from an outsider looking in, and this could be completely wrong. But it seemed like Coach Sutton, he was very disciplined, but he always had that one guy, like after you, it was Adrian Peterson and guys like that seemed to have way more free reign to shoot whatever shot they felt like they needed to shoot. Did you feel like you're that guy on his teams?
I think you always have that guy. I know we had my years, Brooks was our guard, had that freedom because he was the older guy and he knew the game a little bit better, a little bit faster. But we knew everything had to go through Big C. And then when Brooks left, it became me. I had to earn it. And then I was the guy on a perimeter that had a little bit more freedom, right? So it's one of those things where I'll give you a quick story. We were in, I'll never forget, it was my junior year, and we was playing KU, I think, and we was watching film. Yeah. And Coach Sutton there, I think it was Coach Self, we was going over film, and Coach Sutton was there, and Fred takes his turnaround jump shot, which is his shot. Yeah. But it was the, time, place, and score. Yeah. And Coach was like, Fred, I don't think that's a good shot. He was like, Coach, you don't say nothing to Brooks and Randy when they shoot. Because what he said made sense, but he was teaching him time and score. Yeah. Right. So, but I think that happens on every good team. I think that happens everywhere when it's competitive. You're always going to have that one guy that gets a little bit more freedom. In basketball, it's either the perimeter guy or the post guy. In football, it's the receiver or the running back. You're going to get more touches because we think your percentages helped us win. So, I felt that, but also felt that I earned it, and my teammates respected that I worked hard enough because I'm always going to be the hardest worker. So therefore we never had no disagreement when we were playing about you taking too many shots or not.
Yeah. So that play where you ran the baseline, you ran like 19, Nick Martin against Arkansas, they have this deal now where they can track the amount of energy you have to use to play a game. Mm-hmm. And Nick Martin was like 10 times more than any other player at Oklahoma State football. Right. So that's Randy Rutherford to me, because it's like by the time you guarded and then you ran that baseline like 9 miles a game, man. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. And that's what I said. We used to have arguments about who's in great shape, basketball or soccer, right? Because Cornell Hatcher played soccer, and he was considered probably the greatest soccer player that nobody knows about. And we would ask him because he was a forward. He'd been like, I don't have to go basketball, man. You got to play defense. You're in a stance. You don't get a lot of breaks, and you're moving and running through picks and all that. He said, I think basketball is pretty close. I think we run about 3.2 miles a game or something ridiculous like that. So, but you got to be in great shape. And our off-season program it would be illegal to do it now. Let's just say that. Yeah.
So what was that play called where you ran the baseline? It seemed like you got a pick on the one side, got a pick on the backside, and you were looking for that corner three. What was that called?
Well, if it's a zone, we run in wing through. Okay. If it's a man, we run in Hoosier.
Okay.
So we knew where it was coming from. We knew when we was going to get it. So it was one of those things. And it was very difficult for people to guard the baseline when you got a post player like Country, right? You can't show too much if he's going to get the dunk. So they kind of had to give me a little step, which that's all I needed.
Yeah. Which you ran whatever Hoosier or whatever it is called against a zone. You ran that seeming like 800 times against KU. That year that Big Country, remember, he didn't score, and you had 45 points. Talk about that game. That was amazing. I know Oklahoma State lost, and that's not what you wanted, but that was an amazing game.
It was a unique game. I'll just say that. It was nothing that we wanted. It was nothing that we expected. We expected to go in there and win. And so it was just one of those things, like it was happening in real time, and I didn't know he wasn't scoring. I thought we were just playing, and he was just setting picks for me like I've dropped 35 before, so I thought it was just a game. I never knew that he wasn't scoring. I don't think he knew. I think we were just playing. And after it all said and done, and I was talking to Coach, and I was talking to Roy Williams, they were like, dude, I didn't know he had that many points. I said, I didn't either. I was just trying to win. Yeah. So when it happens that way, you really don't. You're not in the moment at that moment. You're in the moment of the game.
So was Gallagher Hall easily the loudest arena that you played in?
It is the loudest. That's one of the two reasons I came to came to Oklahoma State. I was on a visit, which I'd already, I was about to commit anyway that weekend, and they were playing KU. and I was sitting.
Was that the big Monday game?
Yeah, with
Randy
Woodbury, when it was
Davis
so loud,
and
the backboard was shaking.
Yep.
I mean, it was so loud, and I mean, the backboard was literally shaking. And I never forget, I was like, "There's no way he ain't going to hit the rim good." And he shot one off the backboard and barely grazed the rim. And I was like, "I'm signing right here. This is where I'm coming to play at." That's the loudest I ever heard any arena ever come that loud.
It's got to be sad for you to see how it is now, then, right?
You know, I'm such a loyalist. I mean, and I'm loyal to people more than I am to companies or institutions or whatever.
Sure.
And so when all that went down with Coach and everybody, I didn't go back to OSU for over a decade. Like I had no reason to go back. I had no interest. You know, people call and talk, and like Larry Reese is one of my best friends. He's one of the main reasons I started coming back, because he never let me forget that I was a part of something special, and he still wants me to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but yeah, I didn't go back for a long, long time. And I'm glad I finally came back, because some of the people that I had great relationships with are still there. That's what I love about Oklahoma State. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to go watch a game or to watch the game when you're so used to it being a certain way. But, you know, it's been such a long time since we were that way. And people kind of just get numb to it, you know. And if we talk about it, like, oh, you guys always living in the past. Why aren't you living in the future? And, you know, so it's kind of one of those catch-22 things.
Yeah. So the patented call you mentioned, Larry Reese, Randy Rutherford with a tray. Do you remember hearing that whenever he would say that, or was it too loud, or were you just in the zone?
It was too loud. I didn't hear it, but I mean, like when I'll call him or hear his voice or something, and we'll make fun and stuff. But I mean, I've seen video and could hear it when he said it on the video, which is pretty cool. Yeah. But during the game, you really can't hear it. You know what I mean? Yeah. But so yeah, I've seen video of watching some film, and I can hear Larry Reese in the background. Yeah. What
is the hardest moment you can remember from Coach Sutton where you're like, dude, that was hard, man?
There's so many of them. The worst is we went to Hawaii, and we went over there. I think we were ranked 8th in preseason. It was my junior year. That's when we was really supposed to be really, really good. And we got over there, and we didn't play very well. And I think we ended up going 1-2. So we get back, and we're like, man, we got to get away from each other. We don't like each other. We don't want to be around the coaches. It's Christmas break. We're flying back on New Year's. So we're like, we geek it in the Brooks, man. You got to go tell Coach, you and Scott, that, man, we need a break. Just give us 2 or 3 days off. We don't have school. We don't have a game. So we get to the airport in Tulsa. I'll never forget. Usually you have 6 or 7 guys, like the starters and the next couple guys on one van, and then you have the other guys on the other van. And so we geek Brooks up to go to talk to Coach Sutton. We knew, man, you don't say nothing to Coach Sutton after losing.
Sure.
Especially losing twice.
Yeah, right.
After a long flight.
Yeah.
Man. So Brooks goes, and he comes back, and he's burnt red, like somebody just slapped him around like a stepchild. We were like, what happened? He goes, Coach, you just get on that van and get back. We're practicing at 2:00. Losers don't get rewarded. We was like, well, what'd you say to him? What'd you say? He was said, Coach, the players are balking at me. And we was like, balking? Where do you even get that word from? You're not even that kind of guy. That's why he got mad, because you try to be smart, you know? And so I never forget, man, we got on those men. Man, we were just somber, man. Like, it had been the worst 8 days ever of basketball. And we get back, man, we all get in there getting dressed. And thank goodness for Miss Sutton, rest in peace, love her to death.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's like, she saved us so many times. She's like, no, you let those boys off for a couple of days, or they're not going to be any good. So
that's absolutely awesome.
We got 2 days off, and we come back, and man, we practiced our butts off, and we went and gave OU the worst loss they've ever had, 106-89. Yeah. If he wouldn't have laid us off, we wouldn't have done that. But she knew, you know, hey, those boys need a break. And so, man, she used to do that so many times for us. So bless her heart. She was the best, man. She was the best.
Yeah, Patsy. He always mentioned her. He loved her absolutely to death. No doubt about that. So you mentioned Scott Sutton. We've talked about Fred Burley, Big Country. Talk about Toothless in Seattle, Scott Pierce, and all the rest of your teammates.
Oh, that's my guy. Pierce is like literally my probably my best friend right now. Like, we've been friends very close, but me and Pierce, we do guys stuff together, guys trips. I go to Arkansas, he comes here. He's living in Arkansas, man. He's got a beautiful family. Just working and just enjoying life, man. Like I said, we're happy, man. We're 50, man. We never thought we'd be 50 if you look at the way we used to do things.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're just living lives, and the fact that we get to see each other and we can still have stories to talk about, man, it's a blessing.
Anything you do different if you go back?
I probably wouldn't have majored in sociology.
You're right. That's funny.
I probably wouldn't have did that.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Randy. Absolutely awesome. Okay. Other than the 3-point shot against Missouri, I think that's going to be unanimous. Number one, what is the loudest moment you can remember at Gallagher-Iba?
One of the loudest moments I remember, it was my senior year, and because we went undefeated that year. I think when we beat KU there and we beat OU there, because we swept them, I think. And I think that was huge because that's before they renovated it. So it was kind of still got that when we really didn't like OU, like beating their head was like really important. Yeah. And beating Kansas was really important. And when you had all those Oklahoma kids, you had all their families and friends were coming to the game. So, I mean, it was really big. And so anytime we played OU, man, that place was rocking. Like the roof is coming off. Yeah. You know, I mean, and Coach Sutton would always get the mic. Don't be saying anything, throwing nothing. And Billy would lose his mind and get ejected. I mean, it was nuts. Yeah. It was crazy, man. It was crazy.
Yeah, that game you're talking about, you don't know it because you're in the locker room. But Billy Tubbs came out in a cowboy hat, a Western shirt, Wranglers, and boots to mock the OSU fans. And he came back, and then he goes into the locker room, comes back out in his normal garb, as if to just have fun with the fans. And then we put an ass kicking on him, so it made it great for the whole night.
Oh yeah, it was great, man. I mean, Billy was awesome too. I mean, I got to meet him a couple of times outside of basketball and some events. Man, he was a really great guy. He was a great basketball coach and a great man, from what I understand.
Man, y'all had some stud assistants, didn't you? You want to talk about them?
Oh yeah, Coach Self. I mean, spoken. I mean, as simple as that. I mean, Bill Self has been one of the greatest persons. He knew people's names. When he would recruit you, he could tell you everybody's name in your town. He came to Brooklyn, but he knew all my teachers. He knew my friends' parents. He knew their name. He's brilliant at that. He is the best at walking into a room and make everybody feel comfortable. Yeah. Coach Yankovic was a great coach. Jimmy Dykes was a good coach. Yeah. Coach E was a great coach. Coach Graham, he's had so many great coaches that come through that cycle that you had to become a student of the game. Mm-hmm. Because if you weren't a student of the game, it's hard to have conversations with them. Because we want to talk basketball, right? Yeah. And so that was the gift that a lot of us got, that when we played for Coach, we knew we was getting education and the experience of knowing how to do basketball the right way. Yeah. And understanding that, and you can watch it and dissect it before it ever happens because you've seen it, you've been around it. Yeah. And if you talk to people that know basketball, you have a conversation with them, and then have one with somebody that don't know basketball, you can see the difference, just like watching a practice or watching a game.
Yeah. So what's it like watching Trae Young, knowing that, of course, you played professionally, but no NBA because the game was just different back then. It wasn't as guard-centric as it is now. Knowing that if you were maybe 20 years later like Trae Young, watching his game, knowing that it's very similar to yours, and he's a star in the NBA. Is it kind of frustrating for you knowing that the game changed from the time you graduated to now, and that maybe if you were born maybe 20 years later, you'd have been a 10, 15-year NBA star?
Well, the biggest deal about that, I mean, everybody, we can all say, man, I wish and wish and wish, but I always look at it from a standpoint is when your time is there, you got to be ready for the opportunity, right? And the way we were playing, our game was different. We played in a system where I'm a shooting guard. We're not doing a lot of other stuff. And so Coach was about making us successful in that. And if you're successful in that, I had my chance in the NBA to do all that kind of stuff. But some things don't fall your way, and you move on and you go enjoy your life and you embrace where you are. So I'm always about the blessings that you have, where you were, when you are there, and now you're here. So I knew Trae's dad because he played at Tech. And so, I mean, the game is now like European games were when I was playing. When I left the States to go to Europe, that's how the NBA is now. Yes, right. And we would always, when I came back and start coaching with Coach, I was like, the game is changing because they want the game to be free flowing. They want it to be exciting. So it's more entertainment than it is getting down and guarding somebody. It's basically a skill competition, what I tell them. Yeah. If you can, it's a skills competition.
Which you would win.
I would win a lot of those. Yeah. Like I tell people, usually if I go in the gym, I'm usually the best shooter in the gym. Yeah. And it's very few people that I can go in the gym, and back in the day, I mean, I don't shoot the ball now, but if I went in the gym and we get 10, 15 minutes to warm up, I'm pretty sure I'm about to give you the business. So.
Who's the best player you ever beaten horse?
Nick Anderson. We played in Orlando with Brooks for a couple years, and so when I lived with him in the summer, we used to go play ball together. But we beat Vince Carter and Penny Hardaway all the time because they can't really shoot.
Oh, really?
They can now, but back then, because Vince was just coming out of high school when we were finishing up. Yeah. And so he was out of Florida, so we would all go and check, and we would go play at this Catholic church. But he couldn't really shoot. He could jump. So, of course, you want to play horse and all that. But seriously, no, those guys, they didn't want no parts of me at that level.
What's the story on the jersey behind you there, man?
That's one. I think that's our. I don't think that's my original jersey. My original may be somewhere. I think that's the one we got back for our anniversary.
Okay, nice.
When we came back, they gave us a nice jersey with a plaque and stuff on it. I think that's what that one is.
Nice. So that's from 2020 when they honored the
that's from 2020, team. And I got my original when I graduated. I still have that one as well.
Awesome. So, what was that like getting honored in 2020? Was that pretty cool?
It was pretty cool for us because, we look in the mirror, we still think we're young. But the fact that, they thought enough about it and did a really good job for Coach, a really good job for the former players. And they came back and the guys came back, felt like they wanted them to come back, not like they just had to do something for them. I think that's what college sports is getting away from, where when guys come back, it's always, we're going to do it this day and this is the only day we can do it, instead of, hey, making the guys feel comfortable when they can come back anytime and embrace them. You don't have to announce they at the game, but they want to get that love while, like they say, show them the flowers while they still here, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's really cool about Oklahoma State, too, because we're such a family. We're so loyal and true that if you do what you did for a career at Oklahoma State, you're forever going to be loved here, right? That has to be really cool.
That is really cool. And that's something that you don't recognize when you go in. The thing that Coach always taught us is how you treat people, right? When we go eat as a team, we had to have manners. We had to be respectful. And they would send low. It's like, that's the best group of young men because, Coach, I use the same thing with my guys right now. When you handle yourself outside this, you represent not only me, but the institution, but your family and yourself. And we're not dumbasses. Am I a dumbass guy? They'd be like, no, Coach, we're not dumbasses. Okay, so don't do dumbass shit. That's what I tell them every day at the end of practice on the weekend. They know it. That's what they say. No, Coach. I said, why not? Because we're not dumbasses. And that was our thing that we used to do, because Coach would bring in all the, the lawyers and the cops and talk about how you need to present yourself on campus and after hours. And that was our little thing. So, no doubt.
Yeah. So, Steve Lutz, this year's team, the new coach for Oklahoma State basketball. Have you had a chance to meet him? What do you think about the new regime here?
I like Coach Lutz. I mean, we've sat down and we've had dinner. We've talked. I went to practices, one or two practices, and we interact. I mean, I think in Gus, Gus was assistant coach for Brooks for 10 years, one of his assistants. So, I mean, he is a connection there, and I think he has a history. He's a basketball coach, first and foremost. He's not about all this BS. He's going to tell it like he sees. He's going to tell you like it is. That's what I like about him. He's a genuine basketball guy. He wants to talk basketball. He wants to talk strategy. He's not into fashion, trying to make a fashion statement. He's into let's talk basketball. What can we do to win? I'm willing to do everything. Who else is willing to do everything? So I think there's three phases that we got to give him. First, we got to give him an opportunity to recruit some guys that we need to win and compete at a high level. So that's the first thing. We got to have a little patience with him. Second thing, we got to get our fan base back. We got to support him to give him that, because they don't recognize, if your fan base, you're packing the arena, that's 3 or 4 wins a year.
Yeah.
Right. And then
you might not have went to OSU without that type of deal, right?
Right. And then the last thing, we got to get a little bit more NIL money. We got to recognize that it's going to cost us a little more than what we expected if we want to compete at a high level. You can't do like you used to. I'm gonna go get these guys. We're gonna out tough everybody. You can't do that no more, because the guys ain't mentally tough and they ain't built that way no more. Right. And you got to transfer in every year. So you're going against older guys when you're recruiting younger guys. Like, nobody's going out recruiting 4 and 5 freshmen unless you're at Duke. Yeah. But you see, they're struggling right now, because when the game gets tight, you play against grown men, and you're going to make freshman mistakes. So our whole thinking from a institution, a fan base, former players, former coaches, all of our thinking has to shift to what it's going to be like now compared to when we play. That's why when I go, I just go watch, and I can dissect and say A, B, and C. But everybody knows if your talent ain't there, I don't care how good of a coach you are, you're not beating teams that got talent and good coaches, right? So we just got to, if we really want to change the way basketball is being played at Oklahoma State, there are some things that we all need to do, and we all got to be all in on it, or we're not going to be successful. Like, if you watch their practice, you can hear the same kind of echo of certain things that me as a coach, I hear that.
Yeah.
Right. I relate to that. I know that works. Right.
Yeah.
So when you hear that, he's saying the right things. Now we got to get it where we're teaching the right thing.
Yeah,
like,
right.
you can say it, but we have to teach it. And there's a big difference. And I think we've had some quality coaches, but we got to get, he's a quality teacher of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a difference between being a good coach or a good teacher of the game. And I think he understands that because he was with Panner at Purdue and Gene Katie was under Coach Sutton. And so, I mean, you have that connection there. And he's a basketball coach, man. Just talk to him. You'll be like, oh, this guy's all about basketball.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm happy with him. I think, like I said, those are things that we all need to do. We got to make sure we support him because I think he can be very successful.
Randy Rutherford, this has been such a wonderful honor. We're just about exactly the same age. And so you were all throughout my college career. The 95 Final Four was the first one. I can never forget it. Whenever Big Country got the rebound and he dribbled the ball up and we knew it was over, and the Final Four was for Oklahoma State. It was one of the greatest moments ever as an Oklahoma State fan, no doubt about that. So thank you so much for joining. What a wonderful honor this has been.
I appreciate it, my brother. Take care of yourself and be blessed.